Hi everyone, I'm Dana. Welcome back. Wanted to let you want to talk about something that Lily and I did yesterday, and that is go to a Parkinson's IQ and Me seminar. It was held in Bellevue, Washington yesterday, and lots and lots of good information. This is the program that they gave us. Jimmy Chu was the kind of the MC, and for those who don't know, he was on American Ninja Warriors for a few seasons.
Yeah.
He told us he had Parkinson's diagnosed when he was 29, 27, something like that.
Really young. Yeah.
And kind of told us a little bit about his journey and how he hid it from everyone at work and in his life for, he said, the first 8 or 9 years, until he couldn't hide it anymore, and he regrets that, and I would echo that. I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. I don't know people are scared about what their employers will think, and if they'll have a job if afterwards, and I guess it's something for everybody to make that call themselves. But
Yeah, it's something that you wrestle with.
it definitely, and for myself, it was easier for me because I wasn't working at the time. I let my family and friends know right away, but that was me, and everyone has to make that decision for themselves. But even if you decide not to go public with a diagnosis of Parkinson's, there's still things you can do and should do for self-care, and that was what a lot of this was. The first part was assembling your team, your care team, which would include not just your family and your doctor, but there's so much that goes into it.
What kind of doctor did they suggest? Neurologist.
Definitely try to find a movement disorder specialist. That's a subset of neurology that specializes in movement disorders, which Parkinson's is one of a few. And they are, he said that he went to, one of the stories we heard is that he went to like 3 neurologists, and they were saying, oh, it could be this, it could be that, it could be a lot of things. And they went to a movement disorder specialist, and within a few minutes they said, you have Parkinson's, because they see it all the time. And so they know kind of what to look for and what it looks at. And they had a movement disorder specialist there. She kind of went through the tests that we've all done and we all see. But one of the things that she said I found was interesting is, there's the initial diagnosis, which, as we all know, is there's no test that says you have it or you don't have it. It's, they're observations of what you do. And, one of the things that we know is that if you start on the carbidopa levodopa and it makes you feel better, then you most likely have Parkinson's. If it doesn't, you probably don't. And that's what a lot of us went through at first. But she also said that if you get, as you see the patients over time, it just solidifies the diagnosis because they see what's going on. So I found that really interesting that, that at first they may not be 100% sure, but every time they see you and talk about the symptoms, it becomes, more and more of a solid diagnosis.
So what's the test that you'll have to take, the movement test?
So one of the tests is they watch you walk and see, they're watching your gait, they're watching your balance, and watching kind of how you walk. If you swing both arms or whatever, they stand up. They have you stand up and they pull you back to see how quickly you can regain your balance. They do this little tap your fingers thing, and one of the things they'll do is they'll have you walk, and sometimes they'll have you walk thinking, maybe doing math or whatever, and seeing how that affects your balance when you're thinking of something else.
Do you remember what they called it?
No.
Made fun of calling it a sobriety test?
Oh, yeah. It does kind of feel that way sometimes. The same way. And one of the things they said is, you definitely have to exercise all the time. Of course, every doctor is always going to say exercise more, but it's really important for Parkinson's. And one of the exercises that I do and is recommended is called Rock Steady Boxing. It's a boxing program designed for Parkinson's. And we do a lot of the sobriety tests too. They have us, walk a balance beam and and do some of these, balance and memory tests and type of things and cognitive tests. One of the things that they had everybody do is put your hands up like you're boxing, and you'd say right. You'd say right, and then you'd go with your right hand. They'd say left, and randomly do that, and then they'd say, now this time we're going to say right, and you have to go with your right, but you have to say the opposite. So that kind of, so he'd say right, you'd say left, but you'd go with your right, and then he said, now we're going to say right, and you go with your opposite hand, but you say right. So you'd say right, and you go right, and then, so it definitely, it's one of those things to see, how you can think, and
I don't have Parkinson's, and I found that a little bit challenging. So
it is challenging.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun. So found a lot of good information there. They had another couple who was there, and the guy used to be a professional baseball player, and he was diagnosed very young as well during his baseball career, and kind of his journey. He's had it for 20 plus years now.
Yeah.
And his wife was, a big member of their team, and they do kind of everything together, and she kind of gave things that she has to do as far as, making sure if they go on a trip, what the med schedule is going to be, what things they're going to do.
Planning. Yeah.
So planning every day and not making things, trying to keep your schedule as predictable as possible.
Right. I'd like to go back in terms of the healthcare team. Do you want to discuss what other?
So there's the movement disorder specialist, neurologist. There's a mental health professional, a physical therapist, possibly related as a voice therapist.
Yeah, voice therapy, music therapy, nutritionist. Yeah.
I can't remember what else was there.
I don't either. But yeah, so I think that what they were saying is that it's just not one person.
Yeah, it's not just one doctor. It's not just one. It's not just your family, people who take care of you, but it's like a whole team.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, you have to take charge of getting that team, because healthcare systems are not integrated as well as we would hope. And so.
Yeah, you have to get them to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to relate what Dr. 1 said to your Dr. 2.
Yeah. And in terms of medications.
Really take control.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
And one of the tips that was mentioned is your family in between visits to your movement disorder specialist or your neurologist. Jot things down that are new or the questions come up, so because you'll forget too, and so you have a list prepared when you go into your doctor with questions, with new issues, with things that came up, so that we have things to discuss.
Exactly.
Because you're only going to see them. I see mine every 4 months, sometimes it's every 6 months for others. So you don't see them very often. So make the most of that visit when you can.
Absolutely.
So the next piece was about research.
Right. There were several panels. There were 3 panels.
There's 3 panels. And that panel included, the first panel, let me go back, not only a movement disorder specialist, but they had a voice specialist and a physical therapist there as well. So that was kind of the care team panelist. And the next panelists were all about research and the different research things that are going on. And I found that interesting, but my wife found it really interesting because she's in the healthcare field. So, and she understood a lot more what they were talking about than I did. Very, very sciencey.
Yeah. They talked about, proteins. I'm trying to remember that protein that specifically they talked about.
The cycline.
Yeah, I actually looked it up. And so it kind of, the way they were describing it reminded me of cancer, where cancer is an overabundance of cells, that stick together. And so that's kind of what that, and I'm going to post that protein um, down below, I guess. But I found that pretty interesting. I also wanted to mention, did you want to mention the rats? What, or
The
the,
mice.
the mice? Yeah, yeah.
And they were saying that they have cured Parkinson's in mice, but they haven't been able to bridge that gap to humans, um, and they're trying to figure out why. But it's interesting how much research has been going on and how much advancement has gone on in just the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I mentioned is this kind of came about in 2010, and it's already showing big signs.
Yeah.
So
It feels like there's a lot of progress going on, and that's exciting.
yeah. One of the things that I found interesting that they're saying is they've kind of gotten away from um, trying to stop people getting Parkinson's because they
Mm-hmm.
don't know where it comes from, or
Mm-hmm.
there's multiple things
Mm-hmm.
that can trigger that. But they're more focusing on stopping the progression for people who get it.
So
So
whichever step you're at.
you know, yeah, they were saying, can you imagine going into your movement disorder specialist saying you have Parkinson's, you're here, but it's not going to get any worse. We're going to start this treatment and keep it not getting any worse. I think a lot of us would take that instead of the progression. I think most of us would.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so
That was
that was
exciting.
it was exciting, and it makes a lot of sense because
Mm-hmm.
I think you can spend years spinning your wheels trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
where it came from or how you got it. I think all of us have gone down that road.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just drives you nuts because you're never going to know.
Yeah.
Um, so my
Yeah.
bit of advice is stop if you're still doing that,
Mm-hmm.
um, because people have been trying to figure out where it comes from for years. People smarter than me,
Mm-hmm.
and they haven't figured it out. So I'm sure not going to figure it out.
Right.
Some of it is genetic. I think
Mm-hmm.
they said like 10% is genetic if it's one person.
Mm-hmm.
If you have one person in your family that's first degree or whatever, so a mother, father, brother, your
Mm-hmm.
chances of getting Parkinson's are double. And if you have more than one, then they're like quadruple. But on the other hand, chances of getting Parkinson's are about 1%. So double that's only like 2%. So it's nothing to
Right. Yeah.
worry about your entire life. But
Exactly.
certainly something to be aware of, I guess.
Absolutely. I'm going to pause it here because one of the things that I do want to discuss is the PPMI. And so I'm going to pause that and get that paperwork.
Welcome back. So um, they had a lot of information out and about different things, and one of them was
Mm-hmm.
talking about the PPMI, or the Parkinson's Progression Marker Initiative. Um, it's a research study from Michael J. Fox Foundation, and they've discovered a biological test that can detect Parkinson's, and so they're trying to encourage everyone
Mm-hmm.
um, into a study program,
Mm-hmm.
including those who don't have Parkinson's, so family members or then
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things that they talked about is people who are eligible for the study, which includes people who don't have Parkinson's disease,
Mm-hmm.
people who are recently diagnosed, and people who act out their dreams. Then they kind of went off on REM sleep behavior disorders,
Oh, yeah.
which I found interesting because I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And testing's open actually to anyone 18 or older with or without Parkinson's. You can join it, and we'll post a link to anyone who's interested in reading more about the study at the bottom.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that they're encouraging people who don't have Parkinson's and people who have Parkinson's because they want to have some sort of a comparison in the studies.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to create a database. They said,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah. So it's kind of exciting.
yeah,
And do you remember the levels of, you know, I mean, like what you can do in the study, like the levels. I mean, so they talked about, you can do something as simple as filling out a paperwork. You can also do blood testing if you choose.
Okay.
Um, and you can go as fine as far as contributing spinal fluid as well, if that's something that you're willing to do. So, the level that you're willing to contribute is entirely up to you. But it would be great, to have people, join this. Okay.
Um, I don't remember much else of what they were talking about. So the third panel was people who've been living with Parkinson's. There's one person whose mother lived with Parkinson's, and she took care of her. And it's kind of what I called the family panel, or
Mm-hmm.
the patient panel. Kind of people telling their stories of from diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
to now. They mentioned DBS, which I think a lot of us who have Parkinson's know well. I've heard about it. One person saw him just last year, and he had a lot of dyskinesia going on. He's actually been on American Ninja Warriors as well,
Mm-hmm.
but he got his DBS surgery, and he looks so much better now. It's just amazing.
It's been a year since, I think, almost a year since we saw him. And yeah, I mean, totally different person.
Yeah, one of the things we heard, and I think this was actually back in the first panel, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was the husband took a fall and he was home,
Mm-hmm.
and his fall was to the point where he couldn't talk.
Mm-hmm.
So ambulance came in, took him to the hospital, and they weren't sure what was going on. And they sent him for an MRI, and the wife got there, and he's had DBS surgery. So you can't have an MRI with those electrodes in your head. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if she wasn't there, some really bad stuff might have happened.
Yeah.
So kind of the importance of wearing a bracelet, knowing your meds off the, list your meds on your phone or whatever, so doctors know what meds you're taking,
Mm-hmm.
and the dosages, and the amount and the dosages and the times you take them. Take
Mm-hmm.
that into your doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely like wear
Yeah.
identification that you have Parkinson's,
Right.
in case something like that happens where you fall, you can't talk, you're
Mm-hmm.
knocked unconscious, whatever.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that was major. That he had DBS and they were going to take him in for an MRI.
yeah.
And I just also want to add that some of his caregivers work in that hospital. So, and they were still going to give him an MRI.
Yeah, yeah. I think he had his surgery as DBS at that hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So his name should have been in the system, but for some reason they didn't run it, or it wasn't there, or whatever. So
Yeah.
again,
Mm-hmm.
the healthcare system is not as integrated as we all hope.
Right. Absolutely.
So anyway, some of the stories that they were talking about of their journeys, and
Mm-hmm.
and taking, and for the caregivers taking care of people,
Mm-hmm.
was also very interesting.
Yeah. I especially loved the fact that they're in their own journey, but they're also willing to be a resource to the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and they do volunteer work, and so they volunteer in whichever way they can, and that kind of inspired me as a caregiver, to want to volunteer, not necessarily in that organization, but maybe at the Parkinson's Wellness, center, which is we talked about before, which is a boxing
Yeah.
class for people with Parkinson's. And so, yeah, not all of us have this time as a caregiver. I don't know what life is going to look like in the future, but for right now, I think I do. I'm definitely considering. And one of the people that I spoke to actually said if I was willing to take a boxing class. I was like, maybe not that.
And it's interesting. The Rocksteady Boxing, at least the gym I go to, and I think it's everywhere. they don't take people who don't have Parkinson's. You can volunteer there, but
Mm-hmm.
it's an exclusive boxing club for people who don't want to be there. No, I'm joking, but yeah, they don't. So that class
Mm-hmm.
is for everyone who's kind of in the in the same boat.
Right.
My gym, the Parkinson's Wellness place, actually puts you in different classes of people with similar abilities and levels and stages of Parkinson's. So
Mm-hmm.
no one should feel overwhelmed, I guess would be the word,
Right. That's wonderful.
or embarrassed, because I can't do this or I can't do that, and
Mm-hmm.
or we're there to get better. We're not there to
Mm-hmm. Judge,
judge or
be critical of each
yeah,
other.
yeah.
Right.
We're there
Mm-hmm.
encourage us to encourage each other,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which we all try to do. So
I see that. I love that.
yeah, so that was it. And it was I think if you have Parkinson's, or you're a caregiver, and this seminar comes to your area, it's definitely well worth your time to
Yeah, absolutely.
take the day and
Mm-hmm.
and hear them out. I thought it was very informative and
Mm-hmm.
a very good use of our time.
Absolutely. It was 4 hours, I believe, a little bit over 4 hours.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. And so I also want
And that
to,
included breaks, by the way.
yeah, and they fed us. They made sure we were fed breakfast, and we had lunch, and they had bottles of water and all kinds of snacks. I also want to talk about the tables on the outside. The
Vendor tables.
vendors, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were informational as well.
Yeah, so they had I'd say what 12 to 15,
Yeah.
15, something like that,
Mhm.
tables. Quite a few.
Yeah.
Everything from yoga and rock steady boxing
Mhm.
to social network for people with Parkinson's.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Parkinson's APDA. I think it's Parkinson's Disease Association. American Parkinson's Disease Association was there.
Mhm.
Michael J. Fox's foundation was obviously there.
Mhm.
Visiting Angels.
Mhm.
Some research things. So they had different
Mhm.
research facilities and drug facilities of what they're doing.
Mhm.
Um,
They had some clubs, like the walking clubs.
yes.
So they had a walking club for people with Parkinson's, and everybody is. I mean, and that was for our area specifically. But I'm sure that when they go to your area, that they will have clubs where people meet and do things together, and just I guess a type of support group.
Yeah.
So that was kind of exciting to see. They had the walking group, but they also had a climbing group in our area, which I'm really excited about to look into. So I'm trying to remember what else. But it was I appreciated the people out there on at the tables. They were informative. I don't remember specifically anything that I learned, but it was just very encouraging as a caregiver, even though I don't consider myself a caregiver just yet. Just because, as you can tell, my husband's in great shape, So,
One of the things I learned, the drug company that makes, I think it's called Nuplacid. It's a hallucination drug.
mm-hmm,
It's specifically for Parkinson's. I didn't know that.
mm-hmm,
And they said the hallucinations, which most of us, I think he said 50 to 70% of people with Parkinson's have hallucinations at some point.
mm-hmm,
And for me, it's more or less seeing things out the corner of my eye. Like I think I'd see a cat move or something like that.
mm-hmm,
He was saying that the Parkinson's hallucinations happen along the same pathway as people under LSD, but they're typically not scary.
mm-hmm,
They're typically things that we find non-threatening, like a cat or
mm-hmm.
small animal or
Like a cat.
cat. Or loved ones. A lot of sometimes loved ones who have died. There's people who have conversations, think they're in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
So familiar things, he said,
Mm-hmm.
familiar people,
Mm-hmm.
but they're very rarely scary or
Threatening.
violent.
Right.
Or they're going to tell you to do something violent or bad or harmful to yourself or others.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that really interesting. And their drug works specifically along the Parkinson's pathways
Right.
for specifically for them. So
Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well.
not ready for that yet, but it's nice to know that it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
just things like that where they would tell you kind of
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a voice therapy person there. She does telehealth.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of us have swallowing issues, and voice therapy helps that because they were saying it's the same muscles swallowing as it is singing and talking.
Yep.
So you got to strengthen
Mm-hmm.
those muscles.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Well, thank you.
thank you. Thank you everyone for watching and listening, and I hope wherever you're at, if you see this come to your town, definitely take the time to go see it and listen and learn.
Yeah, and share, because that's kind of what we're doing right now. We want to share whatever we're learning about Parkinson's. We're all on different paths, but it's great to share and build community, and to know that you're not alone.
Absolutely, that's important.
Yeah, whether you're, the person who has Parkinson's or the caregiver, you're not alone. So, all right. Hope you have a great Sunday. Go football.
Go Seahawks.
Go Seahawks. All right. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.